Welcome to Employment Law This Week's Year in Review. I'm George Whipple. One of the dominant themes of 2021 was the Biden administration's impact on labor policy. Over the year, we saw a steady increase in labor and employee-friendly policies, as well as an escalation in employer-side enforcement.
I think really at this point, what we're starting to feel is the winds of change. This is a president who, even when he was vice president during the Obama administration, was fairly expressive of his views about unions and his support for employees being represented by unions.
With new officials coming in the Biden administration, they just have a very different background. The Trump administration really had this approach oriented more towards compliance assistance. What I think we'll start seeing from the Biden administration is a bit more of an enforcement orientation.
In September 2020, the EEOC filed just 33 lawsuits. By contrast, this past September 2021, the EEOC has filed 59 lawsuits. So it appears that the agency is gaining momentum again after the initial slowdown that occurred in 2020.
In 2021, the pandemic accelerated a trend that had already begun gaining steam: employee mobility. We saw big policy moves around everything from remote work accommodations to worker classification. One area in particular where we saw an increase in state legislation was around non-compete agreements.
First, we've seen courts take a more critical eye towards non-competes and refuse enforcement of broad restrictions, not just modify them to something reasonable, but refuse to enforce them altogether. Second, numerous states have passed laws in recent years regulating non-competes.
All employers should consider updating their form agreements now and on a going forward basis every year. There's so much change afoot in this area that employers need to be vigilant about applicable requirements. Given this changing regulatory environment, employers should use this as an opportunity to reassess which employees truly warrant non-competition and or non-solicitation agreements. Only critical employees or employees with critical information should be asked to sign them.
As the pandemic continued, employees have increasingly expressed desire for some structural change. The Great Resignation saw a record 4.4 million people leave their jobs in September alone. We also saw increased unionization efforts in new areas like technology, as well as a general increase in union organizing and strike activity, including an escalation in the manufacturing industry for the first time in decades. These developments, along with the introduction of COVID vaccines and government and employer mandates, helped make 2021 a year of recalibration for employers, and for some employers, a year of constant recalibration. Many opened up offices or implemented hybrid work environments while navigating the changing requirements for vaccination and masking policies, privacy protections, and accommodations as the virus evolved.
Some employers are thinking about policies whereby only employees who are vaccinated are allowed back in the workplace, while other employers are thinking about policies that require employees to return to the workplace and be vaccinated. Either way, employers need to think about how they are going to engage with employees that need reasonable accommodations for protected reasons and how they are going to met out those options.
On September 9th, President Biden laid out his controversial COVID-19 action plan, which included new vaccine mandates for federal contractors and healthcare workers, as well as a vaccine or test mandate for private employers with 100 or more employees.
The Biden administration has expressed confidence that the mandate will survive legal challenges, but in the meantime, employers should be prepared to comply with the emergency temporary standard once it's issued.
Federal mandates are moving through the courts right now. The Sixth Circuit lifted the nationwide ban on OSHA's ETS for large employers, while further court review is likely. And the Fifth Circuit lifted its nationwide injunction on vaccine mandates for healthcare workers, though it remains in effect for about half the country. While the mandate for federal contractors remains blocked for now, many contractors are covered by the OSHA ETS. Employers are continuing to prepare, but the future is anything but certain. Looking forward, as President Biden enters his second year in office, signs are pointing to increased focus on non-pandemic regulations, including a reworking of the NLRB's joint employer standard. There will also likely be movement on pay equity and pay transparency through pay band reporting, as well as new opportunities and complications with evolving AI, biometrics, and other workplace technologies. Employment Law This Week will be here with you through it all, providing analysis and tips for employers in 2022. Thank you all very much for watching. Happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.